Hey everyone, Colton here, and welcome to Comics Alliance. Today we're going to be taking a look back at the time Spider-Man hired She-Hulk to be his lawyer and sue J. Jonah Jameson for slander.
I resent that. Slander is spoken. In print, it's libel.
She-Hulk 2004, issue number 4, Web of Lies, was written by Dan Slott. You can also find the names of all the great artists who worked on this comic credited in the description below. Tuesday night, New York City. We see She-Hulk and her friend and fellow lawyer Pug on top of a building. She-Hulk is shining a SpiderMan logo in the air. We then learn that Spider-Man once saved Pug's life, and Pug has a plan to repay the favor. When Spider-Man arrives, he does critique the Spidey symbol that She-Hulk has made, and then he goes on to ask what they need. Pug then offers Spider-Man the opportunity to bring down one of Spidey's greatest foes. Spider-Man is intrigued by this offer and says, "Are we suing Doc Ock for sexual harassment? Venom for copyright infringement? No, wait, Electro for assault with a battery." Cut to Wednesday, we're in J. Jonah Jameson's office at the Daily Bugle. Turns out the spider logo that She-Hulk was using was being shined right on the side of the Daily Bugle's building. Jameson is pissed, but then walks in Clint Eastwood.
Be careful what you wish for, punk.
But it is then revealed that this is actually a shapeshifter who works at She-Hulk's superhuman law firm. He disguised himself as Clint Eastwood so that he could get into Jameson's office and deliver him a stack of court papers indicating that he is being sued by your friendly neighborhood SpiderMan! We then get this awesome page that is a combination of both the comics opening credits and a newspaper article announcing that Spidey and Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk are teaming up to sue Jameson. Now cut to Thursday, we see Peter Parker in his apartment with Mary Jane, and he is ecstatic about the fact that he is finally getting to hit back at Jameson. His main goal in this lawsuit is for everyone to know that he is not the menace that Jameson makes him out to be. We then hear Peter mention that he'll also be able to get a big fat check at the end of this. But Mary Jane then points out that any check Peter would receive would be made out to Spider-Man. Peter clearly hadn't considered that dilemma and says that it's fine and that he can just give it to charity. Or maybe he can use it to buy some spider stuff, like a secret Spidey headquarters or a Spider-Mobile. MJ then points out that he's had a Spider-Mobile before, which, yes, he did. It is now Friday, and we see Pug approaching Jennifer's apartment door. As he knocks on the door, he is rehearsing under his breath his plan to ask Jen out on a date. We then see Jen answer the door in her She-Hulk form, which catches Pug off guard. Pug and She-Hulk are now at the gym working out, and this is when we hear Pug ask Jen to take the first chair in the Spider-Man case. He feels Jen is a far better lawyer than he is, and he doesn't want to risk losing the case. After Jen makes sure that Pug is certain that this is what he wants, she ultimately agrees to take the lead. And now enters the Scorpion, a character that hates both Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson. Scorpion's origins are directly tied to Jameson, who funded an experiment to give Matt Gargan the powers of a scorpion so that he could destroy Spider-Man. The experiment went horribly wrong, as they tend to do, and it turned Gargan into the monster he is today. Jameson and Spider-Man, my two greatest foes, Scorpion says, together in one convenient location, ripe for the plucking. Scorpion views this as the ultimate opportunity to destroy them both in one foul swoop. It is then revealed that Scorpion is speaking to another Spidey foe, Alistair Smythe. Alistair Smythe is the son of Spencer Smythe, a robotics scientist who created what are now known as SpiderSlayers, spider-like robots specifically designed to destroy Spider-Man. The SpiderSlayers were commissioned by none other than, you guessed it, J. Jonah Jameson. Smythe is skeptical of whether or not it's a good idea to attack Spider-Man and Jameson at the trial, considering they'll be in a courtroom surrounded by police and security guards. Scorpion then convinces Smythe to help him by mentioning that if it weren't for Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson, Smythe's father would still be alive today. Smythe then agrees to allow Scorpion to use his SpiderSlayers in his quest to destroy Spider-Man Spider-Man and Jameson. It is now June 24th, 2004, and the case of Spider-Man v. the Daily Bugle has begun. We yet again see Pug trying to tell Jennifer that he has a crush on her, but he is interrupted. J. Jonah Jameson's son, astronaut John Jameson, has entered the courtroom, and he walks up to Jen to say hello. John Jameson reveals that he was subpoenaed by a man who looked a lot like John Glenn. John Glenn, of course, being a famous American astronaut. Jen then reveals that this was Ditto, a shapeshifter that works at her firm, and the same shapeshifter, of course, that was Clint Eastwood for J. Jonah Jameson. John then says that he needs to go say hello to his dad, but before walking away, he asks Jennifer out on a date. Jennifer agrees, and this understandably upsets Pug. Jen then leans over and whispers to Pug, "Oops, I made a date with a witness. That's a conflict of interest." Pug then says, "You did that on purpose." Of course, meaning that Jen took the date so that Pug would have to be first chair on the case. After all, it was his idea to begin with, and Jen wants him to get full credit for that. We then see Jen lean over to Pug and say, "Knock 'em dead, big guy." Now, J. Jonah Jameson is understandably pissed that his own son has been subpoenaed to testify against him. His lawyer then shushes him and the trial begins. John Jameson takes the stand and Pug begins his questioning. We then get an awesome reference going back to the Amazing Spider-Man #1 that came out 41 years prior in 1963. Pug then says to John, "You were the first person Spider-Man ever saved." And then we get to see a flashback to the Amazing Spider-Man #1 when Spider-Man saved John Jameson when his space capsule was seconds away from crash landing into Earth. John Jameson then confirms that if it were not for Spider-Man, he would be dead today. Pug then goes on to discuss the fact that Jameson ran a story claiming that Spider-Man had actually been the one to sabotage the spaceflight to begin with. Pug asked John if NASA ever found any evidence whatsoever supporting that claim, to which John responds, "No, they did not." Pug then goes on to discuss the many instances where Jameson defamed the web-slinger. We hear mention of the time Jameson claimed Spider-Man and Electro were the same person, or the time that he tried to pin a warehouse fire caused by Dr. Doom on Spider-Man. Jameson is having trouble keeping his outburst to himself. He is not happy with the direction that this case is going, and we even hear him try to blame Peter Parker. Now, speaking of Peter Parker, the next witness called to the stand is Spider-Man. Spider-Man swings into court and takes the stand. Jameson starts to throw a fit that Spider-Man is wearing his mask while in court, and he claims that we can't be sure that this is the real Spider-Man. Spider-Man then says, "So the whole swinging in on a web wasn't enough for you, Chuckles?" Pug then comes forward with an Avengers retinal scanner that can confirm the identity of any member of the team. Once Spider-Man's identity is confirmed, they move on. We then see Pug present Spider-Man with a list of 50 Daily Bugle headlines about himself. As Spider-Man begins to read the headlines, we hear him say, "That never happened, neither did that, or that, or that. Okay, that happened, but not that way, and that did happen, but I'm not crazy about the photo because it makes me look fat." Which is funny because he took the damn photo. We then see Jameson's lawyer approach Spider-Man for his line of questioning, and it gets heavy quickly. He accuses Spider-Man of having harassed J. Jonah Jameson, leaving webbing in his office chair, suspending him from high places, and so on. Spider-Man explains that those actions were only to get back at Jameson for his constant harassment. Jameson's lawyer then doesn't waste any time and goes on to call Spider-Man a dangerous menace. "Isn't it true that you had a hand in the death of Captain George Stacy and his daughter Gwen?" That of course really hits home with Peter because Gwen Stacy was his girlfriend. Jameson's lawyer then says, "You brought an alien symbiote to Earth," which is a reference to Secret Wars, "a creature that gave rise to both Venom and the mass murderer known as Carnage." Spidey has no response, and you can tell that he feels true remorse for those events, especially the death of his former love interest, Gwen Stacy. We then see Jennifer attempt to console Spider-Man and assure him that everything will be okay. A speedster from Jennifer's firm then enters the courtroom with a message that the Scorpion, with an army of SpiderSlayers, is headed right for the courthouse. Jennifer and Spider-Man then go to stop the Scorpion, and we get this awesome panel of Spider-Man swinging through the city, holding She-Hulk with his feet. I'm not explaining it well, but you can see the panel. It's really cool. Spidey and She-Hulk arrive on the scene and the fight begins, and then we cut back to the courtroom where J. Jonah Jameson has now taken the stand. He of course calls Spider-Man a menace.
He's a menace to the entire city!
We then get to see Pug ask Jameson what about all the villains that Spider-Man has kept us safe from. Jonah then makes the point that there wasn't a villain problem until Spider-Man came to be. He says that Spider-Man's very presence is responsible for all of these villains. Pug then goes for the jugular and asks Jameson, wasn't it you that funded the creation of the Scorpion and the deadly robots known as the SpiderSlayers? And then we cut back to the fight where we see She-Hulk is trying to appeal to the Scorpion to stop his tirade and allow her and Spider-Man to bring down Jameson through the legal system. She explains to Scorpion that they are on the verge of making Jameson have to pay out millions of dollars. Scorpion seems to be slightly intrigued and actually considering letting the trial continue, but then Spidey swings in and kicks him in the face, knocking him out, and he asks, "What'd I miss?" We then see Spider-Man go on to compliment She-Hulk. He says that in all his years of crime fighting, this is the first time he's seen someone argue their way out of a fight. And then he asks where he can get one of them law degrees. We now cut to Peter Parker in a diner and meeting with MJ. But it turns out it is not MJ, it's Ditto. Pug has subpoenaed Daily Bugle photographer Peter Parker, of course having no idea that he is Spider-Man. Peter Parker is now in court and being questioned by Pug. After Pug has grilled Peter as the photographer who takes all of these photos that accompany Jameson's hit pieces, Pug moves to include Peter Parker as one of the people they're suing along with Jameson. We now cut to the following morning where Spider-Man has come to Pug and She-Hulk and he wants to tell them a knock-knock joke. Knock knock, who's there? Ivana. Ivana who? Ivana settle. What? Pug says, but we're winning. I want to settle, Pug. And then She-Hulk says, he's the client, Pug. You have to respect his wishes. We then cut to a room where Spider-Man, Jennifer, Pug, J. Jonah Jameson, and his lawyer are sitting down to make a deal. Pug says that our client is willing to drop all monetary damages and forego any future claims on one condition. Both Jameson and Peter Parker have to hand out public apologies for one entire business day. Spider-Man then adds while dressed in chicken suits to his demand, to which Jonah says, ha, dream on, you wall-crawling putz, never in a million years. We then see Jonah's lawyer lean over and say, take it, Jonah, you're getting off light. He could easily take both you and Parker for over 300 mil. And then we cut to our final page, which shows Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson in chicken suits handing out apologies to Spider-Man. And then to close it out, we see Pug and Jennifer walking by. They have ice cream, and then we get to hear Jennifer say to Pug, I believe there was something you wanted to ask me. Now this is one of my favorite She-Hulk comics. It's fun, it's light, and I love Spider-Man, so getting to see a case where Spider-Man actually sues Jameson, it's very cool. Now whether or not we'll get to see this pan out in the She-Hulk Disney Plus series, I doubt it, due to the whole legal with Sony, but if they could work out a scenario for Spider-Man to show up in just one episode of She-Hulk and them actually do this comic, bring in J.K. Simmons to play J. Jonah, I think that would be awesome. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new here, please do feel free to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss a thing. Join the Alliance. We'd love to have you. My name's Colton. I'll see you next time.